In this episode, I'm going to talk about the different ways you can use email marketing in your business. Beyond things like newsletters and lead magnets and so on. If you don't know what a lead magnet is, don't worry, I will be explaining that very shortly. And I have lots of tips for you if you're very new to it, as well as if you've started but you're not really getting results through it. If you're very experienced with email marketing, you may not find this episode useful, but if you love email marketing, you may find it interesting. So let's dive in. Welcome to the Upgrade Your Education Business podcast. I'm your host, Sumantha, and I'm so pleased you're here. As an education business owner myself and a former teacher, I understand the nuances that only apply to us. So in this podcast, I share fluff-free, tailored and actionable ideas that you can mould to suit your needs. If you'd like to take this conversation further, please do reach out. I would love to meet you. And finally, it would mean the world to me if you could leave a review. That way, you'll be helping me help more people. Thank you for tuning in. Enjoy. Clients who need support with email marketing are typically in one of three situations. Which one can you relate to? Situation one is that they've signed up to an email marketing platform, maybe on a whim because they took a course and someone asked them to do it or whatever. They've signed up to one, but they don't really know what to do with it. Number two, they have played around with it a little bit, but they don't really feel like they have any kind of plan. Or number three, they have been using email marketing, but they're not really getting customers through it. Now, if you're nodding your head to any of those statements, you'll love this episode. And don't worry, I will also slip in a bit about how to grow your email list. That is, getting people to sign up. And I'll talk about that a bit at the end. Now, if you're in the Tutors Mastermind, this episode sets you up really nicely for October's training, where we are specifically focusing on getting sales through email marketing. If you're already in the mastermind, or if you're not, when you join, you get instant access to all the past training. All of it's live and recorded. And we have a good section on email marketing already. So whether you want to get started on a few bits now, whether you want to do it later, that's absolutely fine. The training is there waiting for you. But for those who are in the mastermind, this is going to lay a really solid foundation for you so that you can really focus on making sales through email marketing when we go through the training. Now, let's start from the beginning. What is email marketing and why could it be useful for your business? Think of email marketing as a way to keep in touch with your audience via email, as opposed to solely relying on things like social media. This doesn't mean that you have to replace social media marketing with email marketing, but the two of them can go hand in hand really powerfully. And I'll give you an example. When I launched my group class course that I co-created with Charlotte, we ran a webinar. And the first time we did it, I gathered interest through social media. But where I placed that interest was through an email list. So essentially on social media, we shared the link to a form. People completed it just to register their interest. They went into a list. The first time we did this, we had 138 signups. The second time we did it, we had 140. So that's a really nice example of where social media, email marketing can go well together. But what was really interesting was that after the webinar, we kept in touch with people who had attended or registered. We kept in touch with them solely via email, not through social media or anywhere else. And everyone who bought the course off the back of that did so via email marketing. So email marketing can be a really powerful tool on its own, and it can work really well with things like social media marketing. But in the same breath, this is not me telling you that you absolutely must have email marketing. If you don't have it, you're not going to make sales. That's not what I'm saying. If you're at the very beginning stages of your business, or if you simply don't have the headspace right now to expand your marketing strategy or to add to it, then you can just save this strategy for later. Some people gather email addresses and they just store it somewhere like a spreadsheet so that when they're ready, they can very easily import that data and they've got a nice group of emails for people who have said that they want to hear from them. Now, you might be wondering, if you're new to this especially, is this a lot of work? Is this going to add to my workload? Now, the reality is, no, it doesn't have to add to your workload, because with email marketing, a lot of it is automated. But what's really useful is that you can also automatically categorize people. So on social media, anyone who follows you sees your content. But through email marketing, if someone has said, I'm specifically interested in this topic, you can just send that kind of content to them and not to everyone else. So you can be really intentional about your marketing, which is what I really, really like. Now, just from a logistical point of view, something to bear in mind is that we hear horror stories about people getting shadow banned on social media, taking a social media break, or getting hacked or cloned, or there's all sorts of things going on. We don't own those social media platforms. We don't own our content on them. However, we do own our email list. So having email marketing, or at least having a list of email addresses for your audience, gives you some backup. And, people sometimes take social media breaks, but people rarely take a break from checking their emails. So email marketing, there is a really strong case for having it in your business, but that doesn't mean you can't make sales without it. So please don't feel under pressure. This is just for you if you really are thinking about it, or if you're planning for it, or if you're already doing it. So what could you use it for beyond the obvious? Well, the common uses are to send things like monthly newsletters and to grow your email list through lead magnets. If you don't know what a lead magnet is, a lead is someone who comes into your business world. And in this context, it's usually someone who could be a potential customer. And the magnet is what attracts them to you. So a typical example would be something like, enter your name and an email address on this form to receive my PDF guide on, and then that's the thing that people want. So that's the magnet part, if you like. Now, in your email marketing platform, you'd have some automation typically that sits behind that. So typically, after someone receives that guide that you have offered them, they might receive a sequence of emails afterwards. Again, it's all automated. You can space them out, you can time them, and they just run for you in the background. Now, these are the most common ways to use email marketing, but there are lots of other ways you can use it as well, especially ways to make targeted sales or to support the people who are already in your world. You see, the ideas that I already mentioned, they tend to involve sending emails to a lot of people, where only a tiny proportion are likely to become customers from them. So if you can be really targeted, it's really good. Another way, though, to think about this is to use it to help you do things like nurture relationships. So let's say someone books a call with you. Then when they book a call, they're already further down the line than they are if, say, they just have followed you on social media and are pressing like on your post. They're further down that buying journey with you. So this is another place you can actually use email marketing to nurture a sale. For instance, when someone books a discovery call with me, they enter my freebie list. With their permission, they enter my freebie list. So they receive things like my weekly podcast episode digest, plus any announcements for free or training or anything that I want to tell them about, basically. But in the call itself, if they say they're interested in one of my services, like the Tutors Mastermind, like my Bespoke one-to-ones if they want to take the group class course, I have specific lists and specific email sequences set up for those. So I would add them to them right in that call, and after the call, they get more information that I drip feed to them. Now, this is useful for both me and them, and I know this because I actually get the majority of my sales off the back of those emails. It's useful because I don't want to bombard people with information during a call. I like to find out more about them and give them the floor to explain everything that's challenging them and everything they want to get off their chest, so we can really get to know each other. And also it means that when I start working with them, I know exactly what we need to target. So in the absence of me giving them all the information they may need, I send it via email instead after the call. And again, instead of cramming everything into one email, it's too much, it's too overwhelming. People need time, they need headspace, they need to think about things. So instead of taking the approach of just one email with everything they need, I just space out my emails and slowly give them information that will help them make a decision about whether or not they want to go ahead. Another way I use email marketing is to regularly support my clients. I have things like onboarding sequences set up. So if someone joins my book club, or if they join the mastermind, they get a series of emails that just helps them settle in. They know where to find things. It helps them kind of just get started. I send things like weekly roundups to members of the mastermind with useful links and so on. So there are lots of different uses for email marketing, and you can get really creative about it. Yeah, it's great to send a monthly newsletter or to offer a lead magnet, but I really love using it to support my clients more, to support people who I've spoken to. And as I mentioned earlier, I use it for launches as well. So when you are thinking about email marketing, where do you start? What's the best thing to get started with? Now, I realise that all the ideas that I've shared so far, and they aren't even an exhaustive list, can be a bit overwhelming. So let's analyse where might be the best place for you to start. If you're not very confident on the tech side of things, I would recommend keeping things simple. So I would just create a list or a tag for people who want to receive, say, a monthly newsletter. A list or a tag is just something you attach to a contact so that you can filter who's interested in what and therefore who you want to send emails to. So let's say someone signed up to your email list because they were interested in a particular guide. You might tag them with that guide's name. If someone's interested in your monthly newsletter, you might tag them with monthly newsletter. And depending on the platform you're using, you might have the option of creating lists of people. You might have the option of using tags. You might have the option of using both. So that's why I'm using both of those words. So for example, my masterminders have a tag called Mastermind, and they may be signed up to other things, but when I'm sending an email about the Tutors Mastermind, I just send it to them. That's what this allows me to do. Now, once you've created this list or this tag, all you have to do is create a form, a very simple form. All you need is someone's name and email address, and most email platforms offer you templates, so this really doesn't need to take long. This is what you're going to send people. That's what they're going to sign up using. Now, it's useful to get some kind of automation set up so that when someone signs up to that form, when someone puts their name and email address, their name automatically goes into your email system and they are categorized the way you have chosen for them to be categorized, through the list, through the tag, depending on how your email marketing works and the best setup for it. So that's probably the lowest tech way of using it. And at this stage, you might be wondering why you need an email marketing platform at all. Couldn't you just gather email addresses and send them your normal newsletter from your normal emails? Well, you could, but it would be time consuming for a start. And also, perhaps more importantly, this is a professional activity. It's a business activity. So to really make it work for your business, you need to know how it's working. You need to be able to see some results. You need to be able to monitor it. So an email marketing platform will, for instance, tell you how many people opened a particular email. Let's say that number is lower than you'd like. You could play around with something like the subject line to see if that makes a difference. Your aim isn't to just email people. Your aim is for people to open and read your emails. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. Now, if you're more confident with technology, then a good place to start might be to create a lead magnet and create an email sequence for people who sign up to it. An email sequence is simply a sequence of emails, a number of emails that you've spaced out in a particular order to send out to people. Now, you might be wondering why I'm not suggesting that you start by creating something that supports your clients or helps you onboard them or helps you sell after a discovery call. Well, the reason is because with those, to make them really smooth and efficient, you typically need to automate it. And typically you might be using different platforms for different things and you need to get them all speaking to each other. So it could be a bit more tech heavy. It may take more time to just work out how you want everything to work. If you want to get up and running fast, which I really want for you, so you can see the benefits of email marketing fast, then it's probably better to go for a slightly easier setup. So some top tips. Let's go through some top tips for getting actual results through email marketing. I have intentionally used the word results instead of sales because As with all types of marketing, you need a goal. You need to know exactly what you're aiming for with specific pieces of content or campaigns. And that goal may not always be sales. Masterminders, we will specifically be focusing on sales in our next mastermind session. But here are some other goals you may have. You may want to, for instance, grow your email list. Maybe that's just your target right now. Maybe you want to increase your visibility. Maybe you want to help people get to know you. Maybe you want to support people already in your world. Maybe you want to make sales. But regardless of your goal, there are some things that you can always do to help you get results. So I'll share those to help you take quick action. My first one is to do what you can to avoid triggering spam filters. Words like free in the subject line can sometimes be a trigger, as well as lots of media like GIFs and imagery in the email itself. Number 2, remember that your subject line is the first thing that people see, so it needs to be short enough not to get cut off, ideally, and you want it to be compelling enough for people to be intrigued. Now, when I say intrigued, I don't mean clickbait. Avoid clickbait at all costs, because all that will happen is people will stop trusting you and they'll just delete your email or unsubscribe before they've even opened it. Number 3, make clear what people can expect from you before subscribing and just after as well. So in that first email where you're welcoming them, you can say how excited you are and how you'll be sharing X, Y, and Z in coming weeks. That first email is the one that almost everyone will open because that's the one they signed up for. Number 4, stay consistent with things like frequency, but balance it with some spontaneity. So you might be really consistent with, say, your newsletter. You might send it at the end in the last week of every month. And if people are really interested in it, they'll be expecting it. So it's a really nice, consistent routine to get into. But every now and again, you might want to just drop into someone's inbox to tell them something exciting or to share a really good tip or to give them a bonus of sorts. Number 5, I promise to give you ideas of how to grow your email list. My top tip really for this is to use other platforms to promote the thing you want people to sign up for and tell them why they should. What can they expect? When you're doing this, find ways of reassuring them that you're not going to bombard them with loads of emails, you're not going to send spam, so that they feel safe to give their email address over to you. Finding that balance between what's too much and what's too little is something you need to experiment with. Depending on who you speak to, people will give you different advice of how many emails should be in a sequence, how should they be spaced out, how frequently should you be emailing people. The advice really does vary. So the thing I've learned over the last 7 years is you've just got to try things out, you've got to experiment, and importantly, use the data. Use your data to steer what you do, because that data is telling you what your audience like. It's telling you what they're responding to. So let's do a quick summary. Here's what to do now to unpick everything that I've discussed and to really take action. Number 1, choose just one goal based on where you're at. So if email marketing is very new to you, your aim might simply be to grow your email list. If it isn't new, then your aim might be to sell or to raise your visibility. That's step 1. Step 2 is choose one thing to offer your email list and think of how you can design it and communicate it to make it something people really want to open. This is regardless of where you are in your email marketing journey. If you're established, it's a really good way to audit what you already have in place. And step 3 is to explore how you can use tools inside your email marketing platform to analyze how well things are working. Can you automate things? Can you automate things a little bit more? Can you categorize things a little bit more? Can you be more thorough so that people are receiving exactly what they're interested in, and that way they're less likely to unsubscribe? Masterminders, if you want training specifically on this, it's in the link inside the Tutors Mastermind session. I'll pop a link in the show notes for you as well. So I'm going to stop there because I've shared quite a few different tips. There's probably some terminology that you need to get your head around, and there's probably a few things that you need to think about. The bottom line though, my parting message, is that even if you're not ready to use email marketing right now, start collecting email addresses wherever you can. With people's permission, remember GDPR or any other legislation in the country that you're in, try and start collecting email addresses, because if social media suddenly went down, you would have to rebuild your audience from scratch, and that's not easy. So thanks as always for staying with me till the end and supporting the podcast. If you have a quick moment, I'd be really grateful if you could write a short review, because that helps me reach more people and therefore it helps me help more people. So thanks as always, and you'll hear from me on Wednesday. Would you like to take this discussion further? Perhaps you have some questions or you'd like more ideas on tailoring your business. If so, book a free discovery call through the link in the show notes.